The Canadian pension plan affects all of us watching this video, and there's changes coming. I'm going to talk about those changes as well as some personal feedback on other areas that I think need to improve around the Canadian pension plan. It's a huge conversation for anyone looking to retire in Canada, and these changes may affect you. The majority of the changes that we're going to talk about today are in Bill C-69. So if you want to read the whole bill, you can do that. We'll link it below. But the biggest change in the conversation is around the death benefit. Now, currently the death benefit on the CPP is $2,500, which is not even enough to pay for cremation or burial or really anything. So what changes are they looking at making? The change they're looking to make around the CPP death benefit is they're looking to double it to $5,000. But hold up, it's only for a very small percentage of people. People that are not married, common law, have never claimed anything. It's basically for single people that have never claimed anything on the Canadian pension plan, meaning that you've passed away before you've collected anything. Now, you always say singles are at a disadvantage in retirement planning, so this may be finally one leg up that they have, and it's around the death benefit, so they're not even here to enjoy it. So when we look at the death benefit around the CPP, I want to give you some history and where I think it needs to go moving forward. If we look back a few years to 1997, that's when the death benefit peaked at $3,580, which was about 10% of YMPE, the yearly maximal pensionable earnings. And the YMPE today in 2024 is $68,500, and that's not including the additional amount. The additional amount would bump it to $73,200. So if we look at 10% of either of those numbers, we're sitting around a $7,000 benefit based on that 10%. So had we just kept with around 10% of YMPE like we had back in the 90s, the death benefit would be around $7,000. Now I get it. $7,000 still isn't that much, but at least it would pay for cremation, maybe burial, at least a small little funeral. The current $2,500 doesn't even come close to paying for anything. Back in 1997, there were CPP reforms, and there were a bunch of changes made. And one of these changes was the CPP death benefit. It was scaled back from that $3,580 to $2,500. And that has not changed since 1997. It hasn't gone up with inflation, hasn't gone up with anything. It stayed stagnant. And as we know, everything else, your funeral, your cremation, your burial costs, everything is costing much, much more than back in 1997. So what needs to change going forward? Well, this is a good change that they're at least talking about increasing the death benefit. Again, it's for a small percentage of people, and there's very strict criteria to be able to get that $5,000 death benefit. But what about if they expanded that for everybody? What about if they looked at the 10% of YMPE? What about if they just started increasing it with inflation every single year? Those would be good starting points to help increase that death benefit. Now I get it. For most people, you think, well, $2,500, $5,000, $7,500, it's not going to make much of a difference anyway. I get it, but if you've paid into CPP your whole life, and if you pass away the day before you start taking it, currently, you get $2,500. It's peanuts. If you're a single person, you've paid all this money in and $2,500 coming out. And I get it. That's the argument for a lot of you to take your CPP early. I'm going to take it before I die, so at least I get something. Statistically, that doesn't really work out. But when you talk about just the death benefit guarantee on the CPP, the $2,500 just doesn't hit home. Now within the Bill C-69, there are also a few other changes around the Canadian pension plan and the benefits that are paid. I'll list those below. I'm not going to go through them all in this video. It's around child benefits, disability stuff. Read those comments below and you get more detail on Bill C-69 and the changes that it affects. But I want your opinion. What do you think should happen with the CPP death benefit? Leave that comment below. Now again, keep your comments nice, but leave what some strategies are below that you think might actually help out. Again, this is something that we pay into. I pay into CPP, a lot of you pay into CPP as well. And if you die a little bit early, well, you're getting punished pretty severely. Now, I also understand that some of the calculation around your CPP is based on actuarial data. So CPP relies on some of us passing away early, paying out that small death benefit so that the pool grows and stays there for future generations. I get that. It's all part of the calculation. It makes sense to me. But I think the $2,500 amount needs to change and at least start with maybe $500 or $7,500, 10% of YMPE, and continue to increase with inflation. So while many of you haven't thought about CPP death benefit, it is something you need to consider, something you need to look into. But again, leave your comment below on how you think these should be changed. What amount of CPP death benefit would you be happy with if you passed away or if your loved one passed away? Leave that comment below. We'll see you in the next video.